U.S. President Donald Trump says he is going to substantially increase trade with India and Pakistan after the two countries agreed to a ceasefire on Saturday.
In the shadow of the Himalayas, two nuclear-armed nations teetered on the brink of war. Missiles flew, jets clashed, borders bled, and then a sudden silence. A ceasefire. But who brokered this peace? Was it diplomacy? Was it pressure? Or was it something else? The Kashmir conflict, a simmering dispute since 1947, flared up once again. In May 2025, India and Pakistan engaged in their most intense confrontation in decades. Drone strikes, missile attacks, and aerial dogfights marked the escalation. At least 66 civilians lost their lives. The world watched, holding its breath. And then, unexpectedly, a ceasefire was announced. But the question lingered. What role did the United States play in this sudden de-escalation? The U.S. government, under President Donald Trump, issued a statement welcoming the ceasefire. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki described it as a positive step towards greater peace and stability in South Asia. The U.S. called on both nations to reaffirm their commitment to dialogue and reduce tensions along the line of control. But was this mere rhetoric, or did the U.S. exert real influence behind the scenes? Both India and Pakistan announced the ceasefire independently. India emphasized that the decision was a bilateral arrangement, dismissing any external mediation. Pakistan, on the other hand, expressed gratitude to President Trump for his mediating role. This divergence raises questions about the nature of U.S. involvement. Was the U.S. a facilitator, or did it simply capitalize on an existing opportunity? The U.S. has a history of involvement in South Asian conflicts. During the Cold War, it played a more active role in mediating disputes. However, in recent years, its approach has shifted towards crisis management rather than conflict resolution. The Trump administration's response to the 2025 escalation reflects this trend. While the U.S. welcomed the ceasefire, it did not take proactive steps to mediate the conflict. This raises the question, did the U.S. influence the ceasefire, or did it merely respond to an unfolding situation? The international community's reaction to the ceasefire was mixed. The United Nations welcomed the announcement, urging both nations to engage in dialogue. China, a key player in the region, expressed cautious optimism, but emphasized the need for a long-term resolution. The European Union called for sustained peace efforts and offered support for mediation. These responses highlight the global concern over the Kashmir conflict and the desire for a lasting peace. While the ceasefire is a positive development, it is fragile. The underlying issues, territorial disputes, political tensions, and historical grievances remain unresolved. Both India and Pakistan face internal pressures that could derail the peace process. The U.S., while not directly involved, has a vested interest in regional stability. Its future role may depend on its willingness to engage more actively in the peace process. In the aftermath of escalating tensions, the U.S. administration, led by President Donald Trump, intensified diplomatic efforts to prevent further conflict. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance engaged directly with Indian and Pakistani leaders, urging restraint and dialogue. Their involvement was pivotal in facilitating communication between the two nations, highlighting the U.S.'s role as a stabilizing force in South Asia. The Wall Street Journal, the Daily Beast +1. From India's viewpoint, the ceasefire was a result of direct military communication with Pakistan. Indian officials emphasized that the decision was a bilateral arrangement, downplaying any external mediation. This stance reflects India's long-standing policy of resolving disputes through direct dialogue without third-party involvement. AP News El HuffPost conversely, Pakistan expressed gratitude towards the U.S. for its role in facilitating the ceasefire. Pakistani leaders publicly acknowledged President Trump's mediation efforts, viewing it as an international recognition of their position. This acknowledgement underscores the differing perceptions of the U.S.'s involvement between the two nations. AP News. The U.S.'s involvement in the ceasefire also has broader geopolitical implications. Analysts note that the U.S.'s engagement in South Asia is influenced by its strategic interests, including countering China's growing influence in the region. This dynamic adds another layer of complexity to the U.S.'s role in the India-Pakistan conflict. Nation international organizations, such as the United Nations, also played a role in supporting the ceasefire. The UN welcomed the announcement, urging both nations to engage in dialogue and reduce tensions. This collective international support reinforces the importance of multilateral efforts in maintaining peace and stability in the region. Looking ahead, the future of the ceasefire remains uncertain. While the immediate threat of conflict has subsided, underlying issues persist. The US and other international actors may continue to play a role in encouraging dialogue and supporting efforts towards a lasting resolution. However, the path to peace will require sustained commitment from all parties involved. While the United States did not directly mediate the ceasefire, its diplomatic efforts were instrumental in facilitating communication between India and Pakistan. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance engaged with both nations, urging restraint and dialogue. Their involvement underscores the U.S.'s role as a strategic partner in South Asia, aiming to prevent further escalation and maintain regional stability. India has consistently emphasized the importance of bilateral dialogue in resolving disputes with Pakistan. Indian officials have downplayed the U.S.'s role in the ceasefire, attributing the agreement to direct military communication between the two countries. This stance reflects India's preference for handling regional issues independently, without external mediation. In contrast, Pakistan has publicly acknowledged the U.S.'s support in facilitating the ceasefire. Pakistani leaders expressed gratitude towards President Trump for his mediation efforts, viewing it as a recognition of their position on the Kashmir issue. This acknowledgement highlights the differing perceptions of the U.S.'s role between the two nations. While the ceasefire is a positive development, it is fragile. The underlying issues, territorial disputes, political tensions, and historical grievances remain unresolved. Both India and Pakistan face internal pressures that could derail the peace process. The U.S., while not directly involved, has a vested interest in regional stability. Its future role may depend on its willingness to engage more actively in the peace process. The 2025 India-Pakistan ceasefire was a pivotal moment in South Asian diplomacy. The U.S., while not directly mediating, played a role in shaping the outcome. Its actions, or lack thereof, reflect a broader shift in its foreign policy approach. As the region moves forward, the question remains, will the U.S. continue to be a passive observer, or will it take a more active role in fostering peace?